really, really proud of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you want to tell us anything about yourself, like what grade you're in and who your teacher is?
I'm in the first grade and my teacher is Miss Sharon.
Great. Anything else? Like a favorite thing about school, maybe?
Yeah, one of my favorite things about school is PE.
Nice.
Your PE teacher will be so proud of you.
And another one is recess.
Awesome. So you like to move around.
And
now. Good. Well, this is a little certificate that you can put on your fridge at home or somewhere else special in your house. And this is a fun little squeezy stress ball.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. And you're welcome to stay and welcome to go, whatever you want. Okay. That was always just the best. I have wonderful unanimous and individually written set of thank you notes from our board visitation meeting. I've actually did an agenda setting. I'm going to pass it around. I am going to take the one home that says we love you. I just already That is really great. That was just a fantastic experience. And to get thank yous when we wanted a thank you was really special. So, yeah, pretty great. Okay.
My turn?
No, I think
No.
we do public comments now. No one signed up, but
No.
I just wanted to ask if there's anyone who wanted to make a comment. So then we're going to move on to minutes that are up for approval. Ask for motions, please. And questions or comments? All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Tara, you're up.
Oh,
Yeah.
I guess, well, you used to be on stage.
All right, so first up, I'm just going to talk about their interactive missing candy bottle drive this week. And I believe that the day that they're, I think it's Thursday. But if you guys have cans and bottles, that would be greatly appreciated for them. And then the BBSU is also hosting, I believe for students, but just movie nights on Friday. Make sure you watch Harriet. And they also have, I know on Fridays at lunches we have Create Connect, which has been kind of cool. And it's where during lunch you're able to go to the LGI and do like crafts or coloring things or just talk to people and just kind of have some downtime, which is pretty nice. And last Friday they brought in a special guest, the BBSU did, to teach people a card game called Space, which is like in their cultures and what out of the gaming. So I got to have the opportunity to go out with some of my friends and to learn that. And so we're also having a tournament for people after school on Thursday, which is nice to help kind of teach people more about that. And we have our spring sports registration, which today's the 12th, yes, open today, yes. So I know I have a lot of people that are talking about that lately as well. And then we have our sources of strength is having a spirit week this week. So if you guys have any stuff on from those, they're pretty nice to have them for each day. And then our, of course, middle school had their musical this past weekend, so do any of you guys stop by and see it? More time. Which is nice production, and it's exciting that they got to put that together and spend the time. I know as the high school is preparing for ours, it was fun to be able to see that as well. Their assignment is a big for us too. It was just nice to see it, or how the different schools support each other as well. And then we also have our athletes heading into sectionals or having had sectionals this past week or starting that, and so just excited to have them go into represent our school. And
Thank you so much.
Awesome. Also, I'll just echo, the musical was fantastic. It was just so well done. To look at the costumes and the sets and the stage presence of middle school kids. Sometimes I just had to look myself and say, these are actually middle school kids that are doing this, which was, I thought it was fantastic. So I just want to echo that. Also about the sectional championships, we're hoping, fingers crossed, that we get a couple parades this week. So if you see police and fire truck escort, tomorrow we have our eyes on boys alpine skiing. You know, they've had a very good season, and they have a legitimate chance to win sectionals tomorrow. And then Wednesday, we also have a really strong chance for our girls alpine ski and our girls bowling is seeded #1. And so I reached out to the fire chief, and they have a truck at the ready, and the police as well. The typical route is from the old Wegmans Plaza up to the academy. That's kind of the agreement we have. So hopefully if you hear the fire trucks and sirens, that's what it's about tomorrow. I only really have one thing to report out on. I just wanted to kind of highlight New York State Education Department Board of Regents, Regent Adrian Hale visited Canandaigua last week. And so, you know, he's from the Rochester area, really an impressive individual, was in the Marines, is an Ivy League graduate, is really big into giving back, and just a lot of energy, just, you know, beaming with positivity. He wanted to visit a few schools in our BOCES. There's 26 options for him. We were one of the 3 that he picked, that he wanted to visit. And so I was asked to kind of thinking of an agenda that he could follow. And he was only here for an hour. And when I think about where I took him, we should have stayed in any one of these spots the entire hour. But there was so much I wanted to highlight. And the difficulty was the timing at 8:30 to 9:30. It kind of ruled out all the primary elementary school, because that's during arrival, and it's difficult at that time in that building. And so he arrived at 8:30, and I asked him to meet me at the academy. Matt and Matt were there with Brian, and our DS, Lynn Rutnick, joined us, and some of her team. We immediately went to the Bright Spot Coffee in the atrium and got him a coffee, and Lynn Rutnick as well. And so he got to see kind of that learning opportunity that the students are doing, running the coffee shop. He interacted with them. He was really interested to learn more about the students, and had a lot of questions of the students and how they were trained to make the coffee and to you know, take the money, take the orders, give it back. And they were great. They were just really fantastic, and the coffee tastes great, of course. So then we moved from there. Every spot was about 10 minutes, so it was kind of like speed dating. We went to the tech wing next, and I wanted them to see some of the 3D printing that was going on. Some of the things they're creating, like the live edge concrete benches that they're selling, the charcuterie boards that they created, just a variety of different things that they've created over the, you know, the years. And then they also had the mugs, kind of the Grey Wolves mugs. They were showing how they were making the mugs and selling them in the student store, and he was really fascinated by that. He didn't realize, though, they were making a mug for him. And so by the time he left, they were able to give him a Canandaigua mug that said Regent Hale on it, and he was really impressed. But he was most impressed with the robotics. He wanted to see the robot, he wanted to know how it operated, he wanted them to demonstrate it for them, which they couldn't because it's not at that point in the build yet. But he was pretty adamant that when this thing's up and running, please, I want to come back and see it operating. I shared how our team qualified for World Championships last year and went to Houston to compete against the best teams in the world. And that's the second time that they've made it that far, and they're really having a good season already. There's a lot of high hopes. So I think he would have stayed there the whole time if I let him. A lot of questions. We also saw kids who were designing homes for clients, and really detailed homes that they're designing on the computer, so he was interested in that. We then moved over to the student-run help desk. As you all know, we have students that are actually certified technicians from Lenovo. So when our students work at our student-run help desk, they do it during their study halls or their lunch if they like, because they have an interest in technology. They have to go through a 6 to 8 hour training to become certified Lenovo technicians. So whenever a staff member or parent or student has an issue with their Chromebook, they bring it to this desk, and our students repair it, and then they bill Lenovo for the repair. And Lenovo cuts money back to this club, who they do a number of things. They offer tons of scholarships for students that work there and beyond. They recently used some of their earnings to buy drones, because we're starting a drone racing team at the middle school. So they had to buy the drones and then the core structures for it. And he was just completely fascinated with that whole concept. And he mentioned, I've never seen a school do this sort of thing before, and so that was pretty impressive to show him. We then went over to our math lab, and I was able to point out that Canandaigua historically, and even now to this day, we achieve some of the best math results in the state. Over and over, we just have a really strong math department. It has a lot to do with the skill of our teachers, and they've written their own curriculum. They really dive into data. How do kids perform on these different standards? Where did they stumble? And if somebody else outperformed them on a certain standard, it's not like, this is my territory sort of thing. It's, what did you do? How did you teach that to them and get it through so that they performed well? And so they're very reflective. And then they ultimately, this math lab concept, they give up their, it's one of their assignments where the math teachers actually go into the space. It's just a small classroom, and students come for extra help. They're not assigned to it. They come during lunch or study hall to get extra help on math. And when we were in there, I think there was 5 or 6 students getting help from a math teacher that was assigned to that period. And so he was really fascinated by that, and I remember his comment was, I've only seen it done this well at a college or a university level. He was really impressed with that structure. We then went down to the Rose Room where our Director of Professional Development had projected our catalog of over 100 courses that our staff take at Lincoln. And so these are courses that we've created. They're all asynchronous at this point, but they've also been offered in person. They've also been offered synchronous online, but she just kind of showed them the body of work with these professional learning opportunities that really over 80% of our staff have taken. Now I can say 100% because of the way we're structuring this conference day this year. And he was just really, not only was he blown away, but our district superintendent, who offers professional development for teachers, really was blown away by the depth and how much we have to offer. And so that was really fun to showcase that. And then we ended it by taking him down. We talked a lot about our theater program at the Academy and how we really do a good job. Our casts are huge, and I talked about how at Stars of Tomorrow last year, I remember right before us was Red Jacket, and they did Cinderella, and it was Prince Charming and Cinderella on stage, and they were wonderful, so skilled, so talented. And MC, after Red Jacket went off, said, we're going from 2 performers to 1,000 performers. Here comes Canandaigua, and we didn't really have 1,000, but it felt like 100 people were on that stage. And so how many kids we have involved in theater. And then we went to Diana Chase and Haley Moore for band and orchestra were performing. We had over 100 kids in rooms next to each other performing, and just kind of explain 1 out of every 4 of our students are in music of some sort. And that really concluded his visit. I think he was thoroughly impressed and was very complimentary of the school. So kudos to all these people for really showcasing some of the great things happening in Canandaigua. But I just wanted to share that with all of you. It's not often you get to get a regents member on campus or the commissioner, for example. It happens, but I think this was our 2nd or 3rd time since I've been here. This was first for Regent Hale. We've had Regent Norwood here a few times.
Did you put him on wheels to get to all of those places in an hour?
He had a lot of energy, I'll tell you, and it was needed because that is ambitious.
Yeah.
He interacted with students in every room. He interacted with the staff in every room. Was very curious and asked a lot of questions, but there was a lot to get in within an hour.
Just a coffee.
Coffee.
They gave him a double shot.
Yeah.
Jamie, you said the help desk students, they take a course in order to be able to perform in school.
Correct.
Okay, yeah, and I think that's awesome. And one of the things that I've been dealing with lately is credit for prior learning, and I wonder if that course translates as a possible set of credits for students if they go on to a SUNY or other institution that does credit for prior learning.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I know the principal has the ability to grant course credit for things they deem comparable to what a course would be, and I think in a lot of ways, the training itself, the 6 to 8 hours of training, I don't think would do it, but the training in combination with a certain number of hours of work that was logged could be something we would be able to consider for that sort of a thing.
Yeah, but I'm wondering if at the college, they might also apply for credit at the college for that prior learning.
That's a great point. And some of our kids, they do it all 4 years of high school.
Right.
So they're technicians, freshmen through senior year. And some of the money they've earned, they actually, kind of, ladder the amount of scholarship based on the number of years you work in the area. So if you work 4 years, you get more money than if you work 2 years, so forth and so on. But it's really a great thing, and it's completely voluntary. The kids like it, and it's something they're interested in doing in college, in most cases. Yeah. That's it.
Any other questions? That's awesome, thank you.
Oh, I am not done.
Oh, we have a change.
Yes,
Yeah.
sorry,
That's
I
okay.
got excited, I shouldn't have. There's a DECA field trip that's in the consent agenda items. The only thing I want to point out is, the hotel that they're staying at will be the Hilton Garden Inn. They had written down the hotel that the conference center was in, but they get assigned by the conference itself. So it's a different hotel than what the packet says, but it's connected to the conference center. They had, I think, put down the Hyatt, but I just wanted to make note of that.
Great, thank you. Warrants up for approval, Joan doing first, and I'll second. Questions or comments? All in favor? They're carried unanimously, thank you.
Is it working? All right. I think it's working. We're not even looking at you, so don't worry about it. No pressure.
We're gonna make do with it.
It's on the computer though, but
It's on the computer, but it's not gonna project for some reason, it was giving me some difficulty.
Do we want to try to put the screen down and try this?
We can certainly try.
I mean, I'm gonna attack you here now. That's a good idea.
Not raise that. Our problem is that people use this room, so. Set it up.
Enough.
You want me to arrow it for you? I can arrow it.
Got it. That might.
Okay.
Good everyone, this is our strategic plan update for the winter season, if you will. So, as we've done in the past with our strategic plan, we have not changed significant portions of the plan itself. In fact, our goals have remained the same. What typically changes from year to year are the different initiatives and the metrics we utilize to measure our progress toward our 4 goals. So this evening, I will be doing much of the same, just highlighting each one of our 4 goal areas and talking about some of the strategic initiatives and maybe some of the metrics associated with each one. So our first goal is talking about enhancing organizational systems and practices in support of teaching and learning, a pretty extensive goal. The first piece to highlight, which we actually saw last month with visitation to the elementary school, it's the implementation of the Carolina Science Program. So this has been some ongoing work that started last year with a pilot and has gone into this year with some ongoing training with our staff, and we saw some of that on display more recently. The teachers continue to give us great feedback about the levels of engagement with the kids, but also appreciate the support with the implementation, as you might expect. When we're doing labs with students and a lot of hands-on learning, there's a lot of materials management. And so we've designed a system to try to help successfully implement that program. We're looking at ways in which, and I'll get to that, the last bullet point, ways to sustain and support some of the ongoing pieces that we would be working toward, not just this year, but beyond. We continue to look at different collaborative teaming efforts. We have built-in opportunities for partnership with Solution Tree, which is really supporting our district's work with multi-tiered systems of support but we've also looked at structuring things in different buildings to try to help move that work forward. So for example, we reimagined the instructional support teacher concept at the academy to really mimic what's happening at the middle school and the primary and elementary schools, and trying to help problem solve for students that might need higher levels of support. So that teacher really specializes in collaborating with not just our administrative team, but might be our mental health staff, but also our classroom teachers, so that we can structure learning experiences or interventions for students to meet their specific needs. And associated with that, we're really enhancing our ability to look at data and use that in a very purposeful manner to support goal setting and focus areas that are outlined not just in our district strategic plan, but building SIP plans as well. Jamie alluded to some of the common learning experiences. So again, we were using our one-for-one opportunity where staff have the ability to engage in 6 hours of learning in advance of the March 15th conference day. That's looked like 4 in-person sessions and 2 asynchronous sessions from that catalog that Jamie referenced just a little while ago. But we got creative this year because sometimes that global learning experience for staff, it doesn't always apply to staff members with their given roles in the same way. So we try to develop an alternative pathway where members of our mental health team who may not necessarily be involved in classroom instruction have an opportunity for unique professional development for themselves, so it can really enhance their practice, but still having the same level of sort of opportunity for learning, just geared toward their specific roles and responsibilities. And that has been the combination of in-person and asynchronous opportunities as well. And as we're coming off stimulus funding, we continue to think about ways for support and sustainability with a lot of the growth that we utilize very purposely and strategically stimulus funding for to move a lot of these things forward. And so collectively, we're trying to figure out, as that funding is sunsetting, how do we continue to have high levels of support and engagement, knowing that that funding we won't have access to that beyond this year. Our second goal area is looking at improvement to district operations. First bullet point is a reference, it's a simple name, but it's actually made quite a difference. It's something called Droplet, which is a way for us to use a variety of electronic forms and things that maybe we've had in the past been more paper-based, a lot of, handwritten and signatures and things of that nature. It's gone to more of a digital format, where we started with things like conference request forms or substitute forms, things of that nature. That's really helped, not just with the organization, but with the approval processes associated with those. And Dan Bowen and his team are looking at trying to get literally every form we have in the district to utilize that system in order to allow us to do that much more quickly and efficiently. Chris Van Dyne is also the second bullet point, our Dignity with All Students Act. We have enhanced protocols across the district for both reporting and responsiveness when there is something that we've been made aware of that really requires a higher level of attention and investigation that might be in relationship to the Dignity with All Students Act. And so there's been a whole bunch of training and a whole bunch of ongoing support for our buildings in the event that we have a DASA incident that we need to respond to, and it's much more organized, aligned, and efficient across the district. And speaking of Chris, she's also worked at trying to find ways to support our buildings for not just the hiring, but also the retention of substitutes. One of the things that we found is that substitutes, yes, we hire them and we are in dire need of them, so if anybody's interested, please. But as we onboard them, that process has been really beneficial to give them a chance to shadow in the classroom, experience what it's like. The likelihood that that supportive process makes them feel comfortable maybe enhances their willingness to kind of come back. And we've received a lot of good feedback from our substitutes that experience has made a difference for them. And they could really choose any district to come and work in. We hope that they continue to choose ours much more frequently than so. The fourth bullet point, improving communications and access to information. We've designed a couple of different positions with communication liaisons across our building so that we can get information out more consistently and readily. And that might look like monthly communications to families. That might look like communication within or across buildings, trying to enhance the information there so that the information is much more predictable and aligned, and people know what to expect. And sometimes we have to find a balance between a right amount of communication versus too much communication, and that team of folks is working well to make sure that that stays coordinated and organized. And one thing that we are exploring right now is the continued use and expansion of Parent Square for attendance notices. We're still debating about when we might launch with this, but we're trying to utilize the Parent Square app to maybe make it more efficient for families to report absences, whether they're in the future or day of. We're hoping to utilize the app so that families can simply indicate an absence, but also give us the excuse, if you will, using the app itself in place of perhaps paper notes that we've typically used in the past.
That'd be great.
Yes, we're getting there. But it's one of those things we want to make sure that before we launch it, we're kind of thinking of all avenues so that it's successful for the buildings from a record keeping standpoint, but also for our families as well.
That makes sense.
The third goal is looking at equitable inclusive school environment. We've continued our partnership across the region of New York State. We're supporting both the culturally responsive sustaining education framework as well as any DEI initiatives. At a much higher level, there's an office at the state education department that is having monthly opportunities for districts to come to, and the attendance has been pretty substantial. In a given month, you might have anywhere between 75 to 100 different school districts in the same Zoom meeting, talking about learning and experiences associated with both of those initiatives. Locally, however, we focused on using our advisory committee to work on quarterly meetings to ensure that our management plan that has a shared set of goals, that we continue to work toward common progress of achieving those. We've also included a couple of opportunities for common professional learning, which is one of the management plan goals. We've done that in December and January, and we're looking forward to one in April, kind of going into May a little bit. Also, when we're thinking about access and equity, we think about our range of our population in terms of families we have in our district, and ensuring that we're expanding translation services. We, at any given moment, have a range of different of languages that we are looking to support communication with in our community. It could be things more, I think the most recent example we're expecting a family that speaks Haitian Creole soon. And so trying to ensure that we have the ability to communicate home to families in the language that's spoken in the home is really critically important. It really strengthens a strong home school communication, and we want to make sure that we're allowing an opportunity for families to have the same access to information as anybody else would. So we are doing our best to be responsive, whether that's using Parent Square as well, which has a feature to help generate that communication, but in instances we might have to get creative. We're looking at partnerships either through in-person translation or other services to meet that need. And finally, we are continuing to engage in learning around historical practices and training. This year at the middle school, as we saw evidence of earlier this year, that in our advisories, there's opportunities for more community building circles, and those continue, and every staff member at the middle school who has an advisory received training. At the academy more recently, the administrative team and mental health team also engaged in a shared common learning experience over the course of 3 days around restorative practices and the extent to which some of those things can be implemented at the academy. And for our final goal, expanding opportunities, a unique thing this year is we brought mindfulness to UPK. So in collaboration with Ruthie Van Gorder, all UPK students for about 30 minutes a week have a chance to engage in some learning in that area, just to help students with their acclimation to school in general, and give them some strategies to try to help them be more aware of their mind and body and their readiness each day. And the UPK teachers are very excited about that, and we're excited about that too. We continue to partner with community-based organizations like the Spot. Taryn referenced the wellness activities of Create and Connect on Fridays at the academy. Somebody was in there giving me a quick phone call, and I heard that they were in the LGI, and the buzz that was in the background was like, what is going on in there? And it's in the middle of Create and Connect. So it really is a lively opportunity, and I'm glad that students and staff are taking full advantage of that. And finally, as we look at trying to get creative to provide access to services for our students and families, we still have 2 very strong and emerging partnerships. Ontario County Mental Health having co-located services for our families, as well as our continued collaboration with Family Counseling Services with Finger Lakes, where we have a school-based advocate that's primarily supporting 9-12, but also a range of grades K through 8 helping to connect some of our families with community-based resources as it's necessary. It's been an incredible support. We're looking to continue that partnership and strengthen that and potentially expand that partnership over time. So, very quick synopsis of our four goal areas. If anybody has any questions, please take them.
Question from the board?
Okay. Thank you for your patience with all of this.
Thank you. It's a lot of work. Thank you. We have a consensus agenda, and so now we will be changing this earlier on. No questions or comments, all in favor? That carries unanimously, thank you. Audit conferences?
Yeah, we just met this past Friday and, in our initial, conversation with our, claims auditor report, from Jill earlier. It was a very clean audit, just, a couple things that Jill was working on. It seemed pretty good for a period that went from October to December. And then we had our risk assessment audit for 23-24 and approved a audit area for the upcoming year. And then, Matt provided us with some state aid updates, as you might be aware of, sort of the news around the state, some of the concerns around the governor's budget proposal and the impact it could have on districts which have been receiving some additional monies because of a hold harmless and the concerns that is going to be removed. We looked at sort of long range, what impact that might have on an institution like Canandaigua. And of course, recognizing that the formula itself is a pretty complex formula and that there are a lot of factors that could impact us next year or the year after. And then we got an update on tax collection and wrapped up the meeting by 8 o'clock, so you're out the door.
Thank you. Before I do policy, I had a question on the field trip.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, is there an expectation for fundraising or anything in regulation, about fundraising? Because I love the idea of the trip, and I think it's a great opportunity for kids. But it's a pretty short turnaround, so it's harder, makes it a little harder to uphold the trip. Do you know if there's anything planned or?
There's not, but I think, it's something we need to do better as a district when we're taking these trips, planning fundraising efforts to help offset the costs on families and being strategic about it. So, my recommendation, because of the tight turnaround, is to go back to the advisor and just indicate that, we would tentatively approve the trip if they can do one fundraising effort between now and you can give them a date. When you think about this trip or the senior trip, the music trip, you're talking literally thousands of dollars on families, and there are kids that will do all three of those trips. And so, in an ideal world, people would plan 2, 3, 4 years in advance and offer a multitude of fundraising efforts. But that poses another problem. If we have all these trips and all these fundraisers going on, that also overburdens people. So, we need to come up with kind of an expectation protocol. But with this one in particular, I think they're planning to go in early November, and the cost is nearing $1,600. It's the IB Spanish, who would like to go to Puerto Rico.
And I think that, a lot of the other groups have the benefit of either booster clubs or a lot of experience on the clubs as the leaders. And these are episodic ones. I think it's a lot of pressure on the person leading it, so I really give her credit for wanting to do it. But I'd love to see some opportunities.
Yeah, a lot of trips like that they don't run through the school typically.
Right.
They kind of run independent of school.
Yeah.
And so we don't have a lot of say, what she's trying to do is run through the school, which would then perhaps give us some kind of expectations to put around it.
Yeah. And I'll speak on behalf of Beth. There is a policy for a second reading, so I move on behalf of the committee. Are there any questions or comments? All in favor? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Any district meetings?
No, I don't believe so. I think that was it.
Anything else? the pledge choice.
I saved the best, he told me I saved the best for last.
Yeah.
He's my last student I'm bringing, yes.
That's great, thank you. I'll ask for motion to adjourn. Jenny and Megan, all in favor. Thank you, good night, everybody.